What terrified you as a kid that isn't scary now? My grandmother's wallpaper at night. Every time I have a ghost dream, it's always in my grandma's house and always in the room with the rose wallpaper. No idea why. This is creepy as hell and I like it. Opening the shower curtain. I was sure there was some monster or murderer waiting for me behind it. I saw a funny tweet once saying something like not sure what my plan was ever gonna be after I flung open the shower curtain and did find a murderer there. Get murdered. No plan required. Sometimes my genius is. It's almost frightening. Catching fire. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to get set on fire at all. But the amount of stop, drop, and roll lessons I got in kindergarten made me think this was going to be a once a year thing at minimum. Wow, I hadn't even thought about how much they drilled this into us. Better safe than sorry, yeah. But man, it did kinda freak me out. My bedroom as a kid was a den converted into a bedroom / laundry room, and one wall was covered in a black mirror with gold paint flecks. Very 70s. But at night the shadows combined with the dark glass and paint made me imagine faces, figures, etc. It really scared me, and I would line up my stuffed animals along my bed to protect me. I too was protected by a line of stuffed animals. The monsters didn't get me, so it must have worked. I did somewhat the same thing, but I made forts out of Jenga bricks, Legos, and toy soldiers to protect me in my sleep. I had imaginary friendly monsters who protected me from the bad monsters. Not only did I have armed, loyal stuffed animals, but I also had fireworks in the corners of my room to trick monsters that they were motion detecting explosives. Asking my grandpa a question. Man, was he intimidating to talk to as a kid. Now I love talking to him when I can. That's awesome that he's still around for you to talk to. Then, I wish I'd talked to both of my grandpas more. Same. One gone. One's mind is gone. / paint. I thought if you got it on you, it would never come off, since it never came off of the walls. When I was 13, my parents let me paint my room lime green. I painted myself, snuck out, and stood outside my friend's window to scare her. Almost gave her dad a heart attack. I wasn't even allowed to finish my room. It's still half green. Tofu getting shot by my friend's dad for my shitty green man cosplay. The green bastard. Parts unknown. There was a huge abandoned windmill in our neighborhood that once pumped water from the river at random. The windmill blades would start to turn at night, never in the day. As kids that used to hang out nearby, it felt like the windmill was haunted as it came to life at dark hours. Probably a result of the metal cooling down after a day in the sun. Edit. How is this my most upvoted comment on Reddit? Also an expiation for those asking. I was assuming a metal axle which would expand from heat during the day, preventing rotation. Then at night when it cools and shrinks again, the release of tension cause it to spin. Who are you so wise in the ways of science? Arthur, King of the Britons. Well, I didn't vote for you. A straight row of fully grown trees. Grew up in the desert. Trees were around but not packed densely, and were mostly palo trees or palm trees. But there was a row of trees that looked like what I consider most would imagine typical trees look like. And that one row of trees was also in close proximity to a large prison. My brother told me that's where Mr. Budgety lived and where the escaped murderers would hide when they'd break out of prison. Oh yeah. Did I mention we had a guy break out of prison and murder the town librarian when I was a kid? So, yeah. Tree lines. Edited to add, in my haste last night I did not go and fact check my childhood memories. I had conflated escaped inmates and the librarian murder into the same story. It's not. What I was confused about was the memory of my dad picking me up on my walk home from school. Normally I would walk past the library because he knew that the search for the murderer of the librarian was ongoing. And there were a few times we locked down the school and the rumor mill was that there was a prisoner escape. I have no idea on how I could verify that or not, although there have been prisoners that have taken correctional officers as hostages and a librarian at the prison as a hostage in attempts to escape. Mr. Budgety, like from the Disney movie, yep, it was his retirement home after his acting gig. He played himself. Obviously, serious typecasting in those movies. The Beast from the Sandlet. freaked me out back then. But now that I can see how low budget the dog looks, still an amazing movie by the way, I find it a bit less scary. Once I realized the kids were scared of a dog, I was so confused. As soon as I could hop fences I was jumping into yards to play with dogs. I have no idea how I'm alive. When I was a kid, for many years I had only seen the first half of the movie or so I didn't see the scene where the dog chases the kid through town. So I just assumed the beast was like a lion or something genuinely terrifying. I saw the full movie when I was maybe 9 or 10 and saw it was just a dog and had no idea why I was supposed to be scared. Well, in the movie the kids all believe tall tales that the dog has eaten other kids and things like that. So I can see a group of 9 to 12-year-olds worrying about it. That was still a large dog that could have very easily killed or done serious damage to one of those kids. They had no idea whether it was an attack dog or not. They were right to not jump into some person's backyard that's highly fenced off from any view. I don't leave my dogs in my backyard, but plenty of people do, and I'd be entirely pissed if some little kid jumps into my backyard, gets himself hurt/killed, my dog is put to death, and I'd get sued. Use the damn doorbell. Thunderstorms. I used to hide under the covers and could only run from the room between flashes. Now I will sit at the window and watch. I love a good thunderstorm now. All it took was a very weird 9-ish-year-old me to stand at the window during a big storm and yell things like, "Is that all you've got?" Yeah, kinda like Lieutenant Dan, but before I ever saw Forrest Gump. When I was a teenager I was home alone a lot, so when it would storm I'd run over to the neighbors. However, they never let anyone in their house, so he'd stand outside in the storm with me, so I wasn't alone. Stay in a house where I'm dry alone, or stand out in it. Yeah, I wasn't the smartest kid sometimes. I feel like there is so much more to this story. Probably, their house ended up getting condemned and they bought a new house. They are great people though, and I still keep in contact with them. I think it's incredibly sweet that he kept you company. The little doll guys from the movie 9 scared me when I was like 6. Love that movie. I've never finished it. What's it even about? Jesus randomly showing up during dinner. I thought he'd use the door. Clearly I was raised to fear the wrath of God. Edited. Thank you for my first awards. I have a reoccurring dream showing the second coming, and I'm not ready. Scares the crap out of me. Most likely to me falling out of my religion. I get those sometimes. Usually after the rapture, and I'm stuck on earth. Church really messed me up. Yo, did you see that Left Behind movie as a kid too? The rapture happens, and it follows the lives of the people who weren't taken. I solely blame this movie series for any rapture nightmare I've ever had. Flushing the toilet. Did you watch those bizarre commercials with the talking toilet in the early 90s that scared you as a kid too? No, I watched Stephen King's It, and I realize all pipes go to the same place, and if he could come out of the drain in the shower then he can also come out of the toilet. That's legitimate too. Looking at mirrors in the night. Thought they would become haunted in the dark. Edit. Thank you guys. Really needed it. Didn't know this would be such a relatable thing. I did think it was a really unique weird type of fear. I'm 21 and I'm still scared to look in a mirror at night. I don't want to know what's behind me in the dark. Apparently if you stare at a mirror in the dark long enough you start hallucinating, your face contorting. It'll take your word for it. In fact there are a lot of weird things your eyes do in the dark. A lot of your brain/eyes do in the dark tricks you, and your brain creates faces and other things out of thin air that aren't actually there. It's probably why a lot of monster stories were created by early man. When I get freaked out in the dark, or see a passing shadow or something I recall Star Wars, your eyes can deceive you. Don't trust them. Apostrophe. The dark. Just kidding, I'm still a little bee. I had to sleep with a nightlight or hall light or TV on my whole life. Then I just stopped. And now it can never be dark enough. I love hotels. Dude, same. I don't sleep near as well if I don't have absolute darkness. Act turned down while I own my fan. 4 feet from my face, lol. I love hotels as well. One of my favorite things to do. Sometimes I'll get a room in my own town just to sleep in one for a night or two. Good times. Thank God. I knew I wasn't the only one. There's one in town with a heated pool I use in the wintertime. Do an off week and I'm the only guy there. The movie Jeepers Creepers. Wait till you see the second one. That bus scene kinda scared the s out of me as a 12-year-old. The bus scene? The whole movie was practically on the bus. Large Marge sent me. Opening a can of Pillsbury biscuits. Just waiting for that pop after unraveling the paper. Spooky. The pop is what keeps us humble. I was always afraid of Baby Bell cheese. Not sure why, but I'm over it now that I'm older. A few months ago I bought some Baby Bell at a gas station in a tiny town. While on a road trip, it tasted off and I noticed that it expired in 2018. I'm now afraid of Baby Bell. Maybe you inherited his fear. Maybe fear never really dies. It just transfers onto the next victim. Running up the basement stairs after turning off the light. J/K. That S is still terrifying. I'm 35 and I still do this. If someone says they don't, I'm pretty sure they're lying. Nah, just broken spirit. I'm the only monster in this house. My ever-growing apathy towards life took out most fears. Foot hanging off the bed and monsters can get me. Good. I have work in the morning. I love hanging my feet off the bed now. I wonder if it's because I'd rather die than wake up. Hades from Hercules. Now I like him better than any other villain. Yes, Hades is the best villain, chef's kiss. Thistles and cacti. Basically any plant that had nasty spikes. Whenever I'd walk in a grass field and see a tiny thistle plant near my foot, I would stop dead in my tracks and call for help. Nowadays, I still get uneased at the thought of falling onto those things, especially the giant thistles. I fell into a gorse bush once. It took me nearly a month to get all of the spikes and splinters out. They didn't hurt and weren't infected or anything, but they were there. Being spanked. The Bermuda Triangle. I've encountered it a lot less than I thought I would have. On the other hand, I've encountered it and not disappeared a lot more than I would have thought. Maybe you did disappear and just don't know it. They do say it is a portal to another dimension and just don't know it. Well, now he knows. Thanks a lot. Escalators. Many thanks to Rescue 911 for convincing me I was going to get eaten by one if my shoe wasn't tied. I was sucked into an escalator for that exact reason. I was also terrified of strangers and was pulled out by a giant man whom I did not know. My parents didn't notice at first because they were too busy arguing avocation.